Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, and welcome to another episode of the Just Seen podcast. Today, we will be discussing a very special topic called chakras. Now, chakras are, chakras are basically the energy centers that, run through our bodies. No matter which realm of thought you're in, somebody is in some way, shape, or form, they have an expression of chakras. And chakras, if, in air quotes, have been emerging in the new age era of, spirituality and connections and things like that. I'm not going to be coming from the perspective of the mystified shit. Like, I'm just going to give the expression as to what chakras are. With that being said, there's going to be a lot of deep information, and not deep in the sense of it being inconceivable or incomprehensible, but it will be layered, and there will be connecting pieces to things you may or may not have made a connection to in the past, but I'm going to show how these things work. And then, of course, I'm going to recap everything and bring it all full circle. So just a few things that I kind of want to go ahead and get out of the way, because once I start moving through, it's going to be like a snowball effect. So when I make reference to dimensions, I'm not speaking on no sci-fi shit. I'm speaking on the level of what your energy manifests on within your living experience. So I will be touching up on 3 specific dimensions, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th, and I will show how they're connected and related to the chakras. You dig what I'm saying? I will also be going into the blockages of chakras, how to unblock them, what elements are associated with chakras and why, and a little bit of examples that correlate, that kind of substantiate the chakra energy without they're not necessarily substantiated, but they give it credence. And there's probably things that you may not have known were connected, but I will show you how they tie into what a chakra represents. So now, with that being said, because it's a lot of information, so I want to go ahead and get into it. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media all of my Instagram platforms at at just underscore seen underscore, at the Just Seen podcast, at Just Seen's merch, at the Hitting It Raw program if you're looking to transition into the plant-based lifestyle. And be sure to get my books, So Frail, A Reality to Black Male Masculinity, So Frail 2, Toxic Femininity, and Hitting It Raw, Living the Raw Plant-Based Lifestyle for Life. I don't think there's anything else that I have. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and dive straight into it. Because like I said, this is a lot of information, and I don't want to rush it, and I want to give it as best as I can. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Oh yeah, and don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the So Frail series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the market for serious trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So just take a quick peek into my world and see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it. You will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right, welcome back. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get into it, because this is going to be a lot of information. And as I said, it is very deep. However, it is not going to be incomprehensible. It is not going to be something that you cannot understand, but it will be something that is very, very layered, and it is going to have multiple connecting pieces over time. And you will see, once I bring it all full circle, what a lot of reality really represents, and some of it, what it doesn't. You see what I'm saying? So first thing I'm going to begin with is, as I said, the dimensions. I'm going to go ahead and lay this out so people understand what I'm talking about. You have 3 basic dimensions that we discuss, and you have the 3rd dimension, the 4th dimension, the 5th dimension. Now, if you're like in that area of new age spirituality, I'm sure you probably heard 4th and 5th dimensions and all of that. And if you're not really attentive to what these people are discussing, it can seem like it's a very mystical shit, some sci-fi shit, like you're, becoming some kind of androgynous being that can you know, astral project and teleport and do all of this amazing, wonderful shit that's like removed from the fetters of the world or some shit, you know. And I'm not gonna say whether that's true or not. I'm gonna leave that for, you know, for you to decipher and everything. I'm sticking to the topic of the chakras, and the chakras are associated with the dimensions simply because the third dimension is made up of the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus chakra. The fourth dimension is made up solely of the heart chakra. And the fifth dimension is comprised of your throat chakra, your brow or first eye chakra, and your crown chakra. Right? So that's what, when I mention dimensions, this is what I'm talking about. And I'm going to show what the chakra energies represent, so you know which dimension you're operating from, and you know that, oh, it's still some real world shit. It's not just, you know, some kind of mystical shit, and now we're playing in an episode of Star Trek or something. I don't want you to think that. Okay, so with that being said, you know, let's dive deeper into it now and peel back the layers. So within the third dimension, as I said, you have the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus chakra. Right? So the root chakra itself, that is our foundational piece. You know what I'm saying? That is our foundational piece. The root chakra is, the theme of it is survival and foundation. So it is our bare minimum form of existence. In essence, it is our carnal nature. It is our animalistic nature. You feel what I'm saying? So you probably heard the conventional thing, you know, from a lot of the new age people, like, yo, fuck with me when you get off your root chakra. You know, it's very treacherous waters to discuss because so many people are on their root chakra, and it's even people on the root chakra telling people to fuck with them when they get off the root chakra, but you're still on your shit. But that's not here or there. But the energy in which the root chakra emanates is solely rooted in surviving. You feel me? And establishing a foundation. You know, so anybody with a shaky foundation, they're going to operate from their root chakra. Now, depending on whether you master that or not, it's going to be difficult to progress forward in certain aspects of life, and even maintain and bring in certain things into your life if you're thriving from the root chakra. So the root chakra is associated with the color red, which is very important to understand because, you know, red is a volatile color. You know, each one of the chakras are associated with one of the 7 colors. You feel what I'm saying? And as you go up the colors from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, you will begin to see the frequency increase because the wavelength is getting shorter because the colors are getting darker. You know, that is a physics aspect that can be applied from a metaphysical perspective to understanding chakras. So the frequency of each energy center begins to get higher and higher because the wavelength of it all gets shorter and shorter as you go up from root, sacral, solar plexus, and so on and so forth. Okay. So that's why the root is connected to the color red, because that is the basic color. I mean, not the basic color. That is the foundational color, the first color of the wavelength, the wave chart, you know. So with that being said, the root chakra is also associated with earth, the elements of earth. And again, each chakra is associated with an element of creation. Now, I know we conventionally talk about 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire. Yeah, earth, air, water, fire. Yeah, I said it right. I'm tripping. So, but there's actually 7. And as I go up, I'll discuss each one of the 7. So you have to keep in mind that what I'm saying is that there's a frequency that has to happen. The frequency increases. And when frequency increases, in a sense, speed increases as well. So keep that in mind. And as I go from each element, you'll see how the speed increases of the element because that element begins to dissolve. But I'm going to get to that when I get to that. Okay, so root chakra. It is represented by the element of earth. Now, this is very important because I don't want you to feel like when I say earth, I'm talking about dirt or grass or, you know, the basic earth science expression of earth. By earth, I mean inert matter. You feel what I'm saying? Earth represents inert matter. So this is basically raw clay. You feel me? A raw clay, a raw mold. That's what it means to be on your root chakra. You are just the raw mold of what you could be and what your potential has to become in order to transition. That's why it's representative of the foundational perspective. So your root is your foundation, right? So it's very important to know that what blocks the root chakra is fear. And fear is one of the hardest things to overcome in life because it's a double-edged sword, you know. And when it comes to being fearful, you have to understand that it's not so easy as walking away. And, you know, being fearful and being scared are not the same thing. So it's not as easy as just saying, hey, I no longer fear this. You have to face it. You know, fear comes from the lack of understanding. You feel me? Fear comes from the lack of understanding. And it gets deep because the 4 points to the mind, I usually say 3, but now I'm saying 4 because there's another one that I've decided to add myself because I feel like it's necessary in this regard to understanding chakras. So you have belief, you have knowledge, you have wisdom, and you have understanding. You feel what I'm saying? Fear is the lack of understanding. So I don't care I do care. Don't get me wrong in a disrespectful perspective, but you know, it's not dependent upon what you believe. It's not dependent on what you know. It's not dependent upon what you have wisdom about. It's dependent upon what you can understand. Your fear of reality is absolved by your understanding. You feel what I'm saying? And here's where it becomes very problematic, why a lot of us are going to remain on our root chakras and why we stay on our root chakras, because we follow belief systems. Now, I get that a belief system is designed to give you that moral support, to give you that essence of life, to make you say, you know what, I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to, you know, have that moral compass. But if you're not born with the moral compass, then you just, you know, you have to realize that you're kind of a fucked up person. But, you know, you innately have the ability to be accountable for yourself. But that's not here nor there. You feel me? Our root chakras are purposely blocked by what we believe in. You know, and I'm going to tell you the reason why it is that way is because we internalize that regardless of, you know, what we believe, that a certain deity, a certain energy, a certain religious system says that we weren't given the spirit of fear, yet they teach us to fear the being, fear the deity, whatever. And that has become a real thin blurred line because a lot of people, you know, will say, well, it's about respect. It's about reverence. Fear, respect, and reverence are not the same thing. So we have to really stop playing in semantics with it and trying to synonymize things and stick to what is being said. So if you're taught to be a deity fearing being, that's going to keep you at your root chakra for 2 reasons. 2 reasons. The first reason is that to fear something that you subconsciously and unconsciously acknowledge as everything. You know, whatever deity it is that you operate under, you will say that this deity is everything. This deity is in everything. So if you're a deity fearing person, you have to fear everything and fear everywhere you go because you never know when this deity is there or not. That is a different level of fear, you know, because you now move under that. So now you have so now it leads into the quandary behind it and the duality that fear and faith are opposite sides of the same coin. A lot of people don't really internalize that because we internalize fear as such a negative thing and faith is a positive thing. But in essence, they are the exact same things. You know, fear is the avoidance of something you do not understand. Faith is walking into something you do not understand. You know, this is why there's a whole cliche and a whole expression to say, walk by faith and not by sight. You feel what I'm saying? So you walk by your inability to understand, but not through your intuitive nature. So when they say not by sight, they're not speaking about your 2 visual eyes. They're speaking about your intuitive eye. So walk by faith and not by sight, not your intuition, not your knowledge, not your ability to program and process the world. Just walk blindly with your inability to understand, as faith and fear are opposite sides of the same coin. And when you get to the bottom of it, faith is, like I said, faith is walking towards something you know nothing about or you do not understand, and fear is staying away from it. So it keeps it alive. So when people say, I'm a God-fearing or I'm a deity-fearing person, and then they say, but this deity did not give me the spirit of fear. However, I have faith in this deity. Faith and fear operate the same way. So your unconscious mind on that unconscious level has now internalized that I simultaneously have to have faith in something that I should not fear, but that I am told to fear. And now I have more faith in it. You feel me? So you're multiplying what blocks your root chakra. You feel what I'm saying? So it keeps us in that state of survival, and it keeps us in that moment. So this is why it's so important for our religious beliefs to tell us to say, hey, you must depend on this thing because you cannot do it by yourself. You dig what I'm saying? You cannot do it by yourself. And I'll get to one of the quandaries that hit that when I get to the solar plexus chakra. But for now, that's the root chakra. So to uncover your root chakra, now I'm not saying, this is not me saying, disbanding this, like leave your religion alone or leave your spiritual practice alone. I'm telling you to understand it. To understand it removes the fear from it. To remove the fear from it elevates you above your root chakra. You feel what I'm saying? So once you elevate above your root chakra, that energy, then you're able to move into your sacral chakra. So as I said, the root chakra is about your foundation, and it is about the element of earth. So once your foundation is solidified within yourself, now you move into your sacral chakra, which governs your feelings and it governs your sexuality. And it is represented by the color orange and the element of water. This is very important because now your inert matter, the earth, inert matter is now being infused with water, and now it becomes viable. You feel what I'm saying? It becomes viable. If you pay attention to every creation story, after the earth was made, water was given to it. You feel me? Even if we look at it from a physical perspective, when a woman is pregnant, the baby has to be created within the womb, which has amniotic fluid in it. So the earth, the inert matter, has to be created and becomes viable in water. You feel what I'm saying? So that's where your sacral chakra energy comes in, because now your foundation, your survival becomes apparent and becomes more fruitful when you're operating through the realm of feeling and you have your feelings intact, right? But here's where it becomes problematic, and more so how a lot of our belief systems keep us stuck on our sacral chakra. So even if let's say we get over the fear part and we're able to understand our deity, we're able to understand our religion, we understand all of this, and we elevate above our root chakra. Now we have to deal with the guilt part, because that's what sacral chakra energy is blocked by. It's blocked by guilt. So when you feel guilty so when you're being told, do not question this, do not question your deity. But then now in order to overcome it and understand it, you had to ask certain questions, and you had to come to certain terms and certain realities to dig deep into truly understanding it. But now you feel the guilt because you had to end up questioning it from time to time. You feel what I'm saying? And in that questioning, now you have become guilty. So guilt blocks your ability to feel. You feel me? So now a lot of times they say the sacral chakra is about emotions. I don't co-sign that it's about emotion, but I say feelings. And there is a direct distinction between feeling and emotion. And I'll explain what an emotion is when I get to the solar plexus chakra and show why they're different and how each tier from the chakras are going up. So like I said, it's very deep in its layers. So I hope you're following along and I'm not losing you right now. So when it comes to the sacral energy, right, it's represented by water, it's represented by the color orange, and it's blocked by guilt. So the very things that you internalize as guilt, they trigger your emotions and they can make you go a different way. You feel me? So this is why when we're stuck on sacral energy, we have to master our feelings, not our emotions. We have to master our feelings. Mastering your feelings and also master your sexuality. Now, by sexuality, I'm not talking about your gender preference. I'm not talking about any of that shit. Sexuality is also connected to creative energy. So if your feelings are not intact and your feelings are out of whack and your sexual energy is off, you cannot be a creative person, or you cannot create the things that you need to create. Your creative energy will be completely tainted. You feel what I'm saying? So mastering your feelings is different than mastering your emotions, because there's only two emotions, but we have a plethora of feelings. So our feelings have been split to a duality. We have the negative feelings and the positive feelings. You feel what I'm saying? And in our time, the way in which we're exhibiting and moving through the world, our feelings are continually triggered. So we have things that'll hit the heart, that'll make you feel bad, feel sad, feel happy, feel joy, but we don't control the triggers. So in relationships, we always talk about, I'm triggered by this, I'm triggered by that. And a lot of times we talk about the negative triggers, but we never talk about the positive triggers. You feel what I mean? That which can trigger you negatively, yes, be aware of it, because you don't want to, have those emotions, cloud your judgment and things like that. But be also aware of the things that can trigger your happy and your positive emotions, because those things can cause you to be controlled. And that which you can be controlled by can cause you to do things that'll lead you to being guilty in reality. You feel what I'm saying? So pay attention to those things that are triggered. So the sacral chakra is blocked by guilt. So in order to not be, and mastering your feelings is also what helps you absolve yourself from feeling guilty for the things that you've done. So people say, I have no regrets. The things that I've lived through in life, I don't regret it. I don't like, but do you feel guilty for it? Because if you feel guilty for the things that you have done and you have accepted that, that is the next step to putting you into the blockages for your your solar plexus chakra. So being guilty or feeling or accepting the guilt of anything, and not rationalizing it will cause you to operate from a certain feeling perspective. If you take the guilt and you make it yours and you feel bad for it, when that thing comes in that you're being made to feel guilty for, it will trigger you to be on a negative perspective. So this is how we feel like people are taking shots at us when they say certain things, because of the things that we have felt guilty for. Those become our triggers. You feel what I mean? They become our triggers, and they can make us. And now guilt doesn't necessarily have to be negative. Being guilty is also taking on the responsibility and the onus of something. So you can take on the onus of something good. And then when people, reflect that good thing to you, it'll trigger your positive feelings. You feel what I'm saying? So it gets the negative rap, because when you think about guilty, you think about court, you think about things like that. But guilt still has a duality. It can be bad and it can be good. And when you take on the guilt, when we take on our guilt, we don't necessarily take on the positive parts and see them too, because that is a part of that aspect. We see a lot of shit in this world through the negative lens only, not through the positive polarity that it has as well. So to unblock your sacral chakra, you need to understand your feelings. And in addition to understanding your feelings, you take away the connection that you have to a guilt, to that which you feel guilty for. You feel what I'm saying? So that way it can't trigger you. So when you're in the heat of an argument and somebody brings up, remember when you did this, and it sends you back into that place when you didn't feel good about it. That is a guilt. And that guilt triggers your feelings. And when it triggers your feelings, it triggers your negative ones. And it binds you to your sacral chakra. So the reason why I was saying it's connected to religion is because the moment that we decide, okay, I want to know more about my religion, let me dive in, and you start to see things that kind of don't sit with the reality of what you start to perceive, your mind starts to feel different. And you say, okay, I feel guilty because I know that I shouldn't be going this far, or I shouldn't be doing this because it's not right. So that can keep you suppressed. So now, this now goes into the solar plexus chakra. Now, this is the top of the third dimension. And this is where a lot of people get lost at and get consumed prior to them even starting life, because the solar plexus it's represented by the color yellow, right? It is represented by the element fire. So now we have the earth, which is inert. Then we have the water that combines with the earth to make it viable. Then we have the fire to make it animated. You dig what I'm saying? It animates it. So the fire represents our soul. Hence why the solar plexus sits at the very center of our core for the most part, right? So we have the solar plexus energy. Like I said, it's represented by the color yellow, represented by the element of fire, and it is blocked by shame. But the solar plexus is our personal identity. This is very, very important to understand, because if you internalize shame, your personal identity is rooted in that. So this is why I said it's very important to pay attention and master your sacral chakra energy, because that which you feel guilty for and you internalize becomes what you feel shame about. And when you internalize guilt, you become shameful for it, and that becomes your personal identity. You begin to see yourself as the thing that you have been made guilty for, that you have internalized as a shame. You feel what I'm saying? And the reason why I say it's very problematic, because when it comes to our personal identity, that's what gives us credence in the world. That's what gives us our universal power. So if we're not able to tap into our emotions, to our feelings the right way, we won't know how to be creative. And if we're not creative, we can't find ourselves in the things we're supposed to do, which then taints our personal identity. So, as I was saying, there's a difference between feelings and emotions. Your emotions sit at your solar plexus chakra, and there's only two emotions. The only two emotions that we have are joy and pain. Pain is the negative side, joy is the positive side. So we take it back down to our sacral chakra. We have positive feelings and we have negative feelings. So the feelings trigger us into one of these emotions. You feel me? The negative feelings that we have are going to trigger us into pain. The positive feelings that we have are going to trigger us into joy. And these things that we internalize create the shame. Now, shame is a negative word. It has a negative connotation to it. However, I want you to see it from a dual nature of it being that shame is when you have internalized a guilt. As I said, guilt can be positive or negative. Is what you internalize, what you accept that can be triggered by a certain feeling. You feel me? And control you when that feeling is triggered. So you can take on the guilt of happiness as well. I take that on. It's just these particular words have negative connotations, but I need you to see them objectively so you can see both sides. You feel me? So the shames are the guilts that we have internalized. However, so any of the negative feelings that we have, when triggered, they will produce shame. They will produce pain. And if our personal identity is rooted in pain, that's how we will operate, from painful experiences. This is how we have so many negative people. This is how we get to the misery loves company, and we get to these different dynamics. And then from the positive side, if you have the joyous, you have the positive feelings trigger you, then you become joyful in your personal identity. You feel what I mean? And so this is how we have people that are just naturally bubbly and upbeat. Their personal identity is rooted in joy. That's how they can see the silver lining in everything. And then you have the people that can only see the dark clouds because their personal identity is created in that. So now, like I said, it ties into religion majorly because we're told that we're born sinners. If your personal identity means that you're taught that you're a born sinner, or if you're taught that you have to be born again, or if you're taught that whatever created you messed up the first time and it has to redo you, and you internalize that now taps into a different level of your reality because your personal identity now has to be fueled through that. And if you take it negatively, to be told that you're a born sinner, to be told that, you come from slavery, to be told these different things, what do you think your personal identity has to be rooted in? Pain. So what do you think your triggers are going to be? Negative. You feel what I'm saying? So when it comes to your emotionality, you have developed a personal identity through pain. You dig what I'm saying? So that shame is going to be there because that's what blocks that solar plexus chakra energy. You feel me? So how do you overcome your shames? How do you overcome your shame? You have to absolve yourself of guilt, and you can't feel regret. You can't feel these things because the moment you take on that guilt and you internalize it, it becomes shame. And that keeps you stuck at your solar plexus chakra because it's blocked. And in addition to that, back to tie it all in, it keeps you stuck in the third dimension. That's what it means to be in a dimensional space. It keeps you stuck in the third dimension. And the reason why I'm saying it's tied and connected to our religious connection is because our religious connection has taught us from beginning, like we're born sinners, that, we're nothing without this being. That is very, very, a very, very poisonous thing to say, because if you believe and you perceive and you internalize that you're nothing without this being, the times when you feel like that being is not there or that being has left you, although you have consciously rationalized that this being will never leave you or forsake you, as a human being, there are moments when you feel like life is just crashing on you. And I know that this being isn't here right now. And I know that maybe it's a test or something, or some people say maybe the dark side of this being's connection is busy and working and tempting me and doing all of these other things. You feel me? So if one is present, that means one has to be absent. It's that simple. You feel me? But these things keep us bound to our third dimensional space because we now internalize shame. And we now take on a shameful nature within ourselves. You feel what I mean? Based off of the things that we feel guilty for, based off of the fact that we are stuck in a survival mode, and the things that we had to do to survive made us respond a certain way. So from our third dimensional space, just through the natural proclivity and the natural connection to reality that we have, from the media to whatever it is that we pay attention to on a regular basis, it shifts us to our negative side. When it shifts us to our negative side, we internalize the negative polarity of our existence. And it keeps us bound in our third dimension according to that. So to unblock your chakras, root chakra, your third dimensional chakra is your root chakra. You have to overcome your fears. Face your fears and they'll disappear. Face your fears and they'll disappear, and you'll be able to ascend to your sacral chakra energy, right? Sacral chakra is blocked by guilt. And to absolve yourself of guilt, you have to master your feelings, because the very things that trigger you are what you can be led to feel guilty for. So you have to master your feelings, the positive and the negative ones. Mastering your feelings keeps you from taking on guilt, which then keeps you from internalizing guilt and becoming shame, which is your solar plexus energy. And to do that, by mastering your feelings, you can then dictate whether you're going to operate from the emotion of pain and joy, which now solidifies your personal identity. You feel what I mean? That's the first three chakras. Okay. And that is also the third dimension. All right. Look. The markets are not a difficult place to understand. All right. You just have to know what you're looking at. And there's 5 things that you need to see before you can make any market entry. First, you need a pocket, so you can know which direction the market is going in. Second, you need a pullback, so you can get the better price. Third, you need a battlefield, so you can see when that market movement is slowing down. Fourth, you need the upper hand, so you can see when the market reactivates. And last, you need a final push, so you can see the exact moment when it's time to go with the direction you are already moving in. Okay? Of course, there's so much more that has to go into that, and it's not as cut and dry as that. But those are things that I teach in my Mastering the Market course. So if you would like to learn more, please visit IamJustSing.com and check out the Mastering the Market course today. Although it is directed and specialized for Forex, all of the skills, I crafted them to be transferable to any market that you're looking at. So again, visit IamJustSing.com and check out the Mastering the Market course today if you are truly looking to master the market. Oh yeah, and don't forget, while I still got you, you can use promo code QUARANTINE to save over 90% off of the enrollment of the full price of the course. That is QUARANTINE, QUARANTEEN. So now, once that's uncovered, we now go into the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension operates for one chakra only, and that is the heart chakra. Now, notice that when I was going over the sacral and the solar plexus, I never mentioned love, because love is not a feeling and love is not an emotion. Love is stronger than both of those. Love is a power. Love is a power. And the energy and the power that love represents, it's a dual nature. You have love and hate. You dig what I'm saying? Love and hate are the same energies. They are the same energies expressed differently because of you will exhibit hate or love depending on how your sacral chakra is built. If you are not in tune with your positive feelings, you cannot be triggered to express your personal identity through joy. And if you cannot express your personal identity through joy, you cannot experience love. You feel what I mean? But on the same side of that, if your emotions that you tapped into are negative, your feelings are negative, you will then trigger the negative emotion of pain. And establishing a personal identity through pain is going to give you hatred. This is very important because the fourth chakra, the fourth dimension, that area, and it's also represented by the element of air and the color green. Let me go ahead and say that because I'll be on a roll and I forget to say them. But air is a tangible, intangible element. You can feel air, you can touch air, but you cannot harness it. You can only harness its effects. And this is why it's fourth dimensional, because it is a transitional space. It's the transitional element. You feel what I'm saying? It's the transitional element. And going from earth, water, and fire, where you can actually, hold these in your hand, physically, that is the aspect of it being third dimensional. This is fourth dimensional space because you can only feel it through appealing to your senses. You feel me? not actually harnessing it. Like you could feel the effects of air. You could feel the effects of wind. You can feel the effects of air by wind. The air being divided into hot and cold. Hot rises, cold falls, and it creates cyclones and circulates and shit. But that's how you can feel the effects of air. But the element of air is tangibly intangible, just like love, just like the heart chakra. Love is tangibly intangible. You feel me? You can feel it, but you can't really hold it. You can't harness it. You feel what I'm saying? And that's what it represents. So this is why it's important to understand the heart chakra, because the heart chakra is blocked by grief. Grief is the inability to deal with loss. You feel me? That is very important, because it's hard to love if you are unable to deal with loss. Because a part of loving is understanding that seasons are going to end. You feel what I mean? Same thing as hate, but love and hate are the same energies as a whole. So to get over, to unblock your heart chakra is through mastering and overcoming grief. Now, here's why it's so important. And the fourth chakra is where spiritual awakening happens. So a lot of people talk about spiritual awakenings, but spiritual awakenings come through grievous moments, trauma, heartbreaks, deaths. These things are going to open up your heart chakra. If you have not been mastering and overcoming your first three, that spiritual awakening will make you feel like you're losing your mind, because you are not prepared for prepared for what you are about to face. I will say that, because grieving and getting over grief, it's hard to get over grief, and it's hard to get over loss when everything that you have filtered through is negative. You feel me? If your sacral chakra is off and you experience negative feelings that trigger the negative emotion of pain that created your negative predisposition for a personal identity, which now makes you love, that makes your heart energy operate through hatred. You feel me? Now, this is not saying hatred doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be burning shit down and doing all of that. I want you to understand it solely from the perspective of it being a power, the same power as love. These two operate the same way. You know, that's why they say you can't eliminate hate with hate. You have to love hate away, or whatever the case may be. No, you can hate away. You can love away, and you can hate love away, and you can love hate away. You feel me? Because they're the same energy. But it's all in what you're choosing to express yourself under to get that. But I don't want to get too wrapped up in that. To overcome grief is to be able to accept loss. It's hard to accept loss because we fear death. Why do we fear death? Because our belief systems teach us that if we die and we are not right, we will suffer the greatest consequence possible, which in turn keeps us from mastering our emotions and our feelings, because we stuck in the fear. We're afraid that if I just do the bare minimum of life, I will be okay and I will be able to make it to this afterlife. So we fear death. And in fearing death, this is why they tell you that, this is why they teach on certain spiritual levels that fear and love are opposing forces. You feel what I'm saying? Love and hate are opposite sides of the same coin, and fear and faith are opposite sides of the same coin. But fear and love are opposing forces. You feel me? Because to fear death is to be unable to overcome grief. Because death, from a physical aspect and a metaphorical aspect, is a transition between lives. It is not an end. It is a transition between lives. And if you fear death, you fear a new beginning. You fear transformation. Therefore, you will be stuck, blocked on your heart chakra, because now you cannot move forward. You feel what I'm saying? That heart chakra energy will always be blocked, and it can always be tainted, because you are unable to understand that seasons come to an end. Things die. Things, don't make it to the next level, and you hold on to that. And by holding on to that, that blocks your crown chakra as well, because that's blocked by emotional attachment, earthly attachment. But I'm going to get to that soon. But I'm showing how each one segues. So your fourth dimensional space, when you are able to overcome loss, if you are able to deal with loss, you can move forward in life better. Losing and this is something that I've learned, that this has happened to our generation. And I don't know if it's purposeful. I'm not going to say that because I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist and shit. But there came a time, I'm a 90s baby, but I do know that we used to have field day. We used to have competitions. We used to have all kind of shit. And if you lost that competition, you know, you were sad, you were down, but you went and you trained harder. You went and you made yourself better. You feel what I'm saying? I remember when I used to do like field days and shit, they had 3 ribbons, first, second, and third. If you did not place, you did not get one, you know? And at the time it was, oh, well, I just didn't get it. All right, I'll try again next year, or I try better the next time. I'll work at it to get there. You feel what I'm saying? But then I noticed, I never forget the first time I seen one. I was in like, I had to be in the 3rd grade. Had to be in the 3rd grade. And I didn't place at this event. I wasn't tripping. I said, damn, yo, he dusted me. Motherfuckers was fast, but you feel me? I wasn't tripping because I was like, yo, I lost. It was what it was. You feel me? But they started handing out these things called honorable mentions because you participated. Because you participated. So here they are teaching. And you know what I'm saying? And then it's like, as I go over this, they start to say, oh, everybody's a winner. Everybody's a winner. Now, I'm big on optimism. I'm big on preaching positivity. I'm big on that shit. But we have to still preach reality. We still have to give reality. You know, we're teaching children continually. Oh, you placed, so it'll be okay. That's low key. Like low key, they turned us into narcissists because we got that level of entitlement without putting in any work. Oh, I just gotta show up. I gotta show up. That's crazy as hell. You feel me? Then I remember when grades even started changing. You know, there was a time when I think it was like my middle school year when I heard teachers say, I cannot give this student lower than a 60, even if they get a 20. I have to still get I don't have to put in work. You no longer have to put in work. So if you're no longer putting in work, you don't know the value of things. And if you don't know the value of things, you don't know how to lose. Feel me? So you don't know how to lose because you don't know how to win. So when we're going through these elementary school phases and things like that, our heart chakras are being blocked because we're not taking it's an evolutionary process to learn how to deal with losing. Right? But we're always given, you know, oh, you're still a winner. You're still that. You're right. I'm still a winner. I'm still going to do this. I'm not going to let it get to me. No, you're not a winner until you win. That's just the reality of it. You're not a winner until you win. So because of that, if you're not able to deal with your heart chakra energy, when a loss happens, you'll take it worse than somebody who's not, you know, who's used to losing and overcoming it, because there is no such thing as a loss. It's a lesson to learn. But you lose when you don't learn your lesson. You feel what I'm saying? But that's heart chakra energy. You feel what I'm saying? So now we get older. We get into what's considered the real world. And we apply for that job and don't get it. What? I'm supposed to be a winner. Like, fuck. Even if I'm supposed to get something. What about the honorable mentions and shit? Like what? That breaks you down because now you never had the childhood practice to learn how to overcome loss. So when you face big losses, it hits totally differently. So don't even get on death. When a loved one dies, we've never been taught to prepare for loss. You feel me? And that keeps us bound within our heart chakra energy. That keeps it blocked. You feel what I'm saying? This is not to say be heartless or be cold, because you're gonna feel. You're gonna feel. But through understanding loss, it's like, okay, I need to take this time to grieve properly in order to accept the loss, in order to move forward from the loss. Don't be the dramatic motherfucker who now, Lord, take me with you. I got to dive on the casket and shit because you don't know how to deal with loss. You feel me? That is a root chakra blockage. And if you don't know how to deal with loss, which is 4th dimensional, now segue into the 5th dimensional. If you don't know how to deal with loss, you don't know how to communicate properly, which now goes into what? The throat chakra. The throat chakra, the brow, and the crown are all 5th dimensional. But the throat chakra represents communication, right? It represents communication. It's represented by the color blue and the element of sound. Go figure. And it's blocked by lies. This is very important. The throat chakra is blocked by lies. Now, I need you to understand, it's not just lies you hear, but lies you tell as well. This is why the throat chakra is sitting at the neck. But in addition to sitting at the neck, it's what you speak and what you hear. You know, the greatest connecting piece that helped me to understand that the throat chakra being blocked by lies is what you hear and what you tell. The fact that when you look at hospitals, right, they operate like they have an ear, neck, and throat doctor. There's a specific doctor that operates on the ears, the neck, and the throat. All of that goes together. You know, in studying anatomy and physiology, I've seen why. It's like, oh shit, it does go together. Like, this shit is cold. You feel me? The ear, what is it? The ear? No, not the neck. Is it ear, nose, and neck, or ear, nose? Either way, the neck and the ear is in there together. You feel what I'm saying? The neck and the ear is in there together because the throat. Now, I did say it right. The ear, nose, and throat. Yeah, ear, nose, and throat doctor. But anyway, the throat and the ear, they go hand in hand together on a spiritual level because it's what you speak and what you hear. So now, when it comes to these lies, right? And now this is when it's going to start to get a little bit deeper. There's still more layers to peel back. So when it comes to lies, you can perceive a truth that can be a lie. And the fact that you have internalized it as a truth does not change the fact that it's still a lie according to universal law. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it can be a lie in the universe and you have internalized it as a truth. That does not make it true. That's why I tell people the best way for you to overcome your throat chakra is to understand this concept. There is no truth. Truth is relative to the experiencer. The only truth that we have is that there isn't one. Because for every bit of information you have that you feel is true, there is something that can negate it to make it false. Understanding this concept keeps you from being blocked by lies. Lies you hear and lies you tell. You feel me? That keeps you blocked on your root chakra, on your throat chakra. And this is why I said it's tied to the heart chakra, because if you fear loss, you can't tell the truth to people. It's hard to tell the truth to people because you don't want to hear no, or you don't want to be hurt, or you don't want to hurt them, or you don't want to be hurt yourself. So it's easier to lie to people than it is to tell the truth because it's hard to overcome loss. Because you know that when the truth comes out, this person has this season has a potential end. But if I lie, I can hold on to this season for as long as possible. By continually lying on a regular basis, we enhance the blockage of our throat chakra, which makes communication hard. So now we can take this back to our childhood, fairy tales, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, shit like that. These things are lies, but we tell them as truths. And when we have to tell a child, oh, it's time to grow up, you can't believe in that. Do you know what you just done to them? Do you know what you just done to them? You have shattered a reality for them. You feel me? So now when we have lies being spoken, now this is what segues into the brow chakra, which is your third eye. I call it the first eye because I feel like your intuitive state should be first. But this is why the brow chakra is called the first eye. But now this chakra is representative of the element light. So we have throat chakra being sound. Now we have the brow chakra being light. You feel me? And it's represented by the color indigo. This is where you get your indigo children from. These are children who can see through the illusion. You feel what I'm saying? They're children who can see through the illusion. So you can't lie to them. You feel me? So this is why if you've been lying to your child, say about whatever the case may be, Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny, they find out about the Easter Bunny, they're heartbroken. They find out about Santa Claus, they're heartbroken. Why? Because they're unable to deal with loss. Because now I have to change my reality. I just lost something that made a reality for me. Now my reality changes because that thing is gone. But I don't know how to grieve. I don't know how to mourn the loss. I don't know how to let the loss go. You feel me? So that keeps us bound. So back to what I was saying about the lies you hear and the lies you tell. This is how religion is so heavy. I'm not saying religion is a lie. However, I'm saying the expression in how people present religion is a lie, presented as a truth. You feel me? Because there's layers to what a religion represents. And if the lies that you hear now internalize your third eye chakra. Now your third eye chakra, what the blockage is illusion. It's illusion. You feel me? That's why it's associated with the color light, because light illuminates the darkness. The illusion is the veil put over you. So it represents illusion. So if you're following the religion that one teaches you to fear everything and keeps you all of the things that I discussed that keeps you at the blockages before, you feel me? But then when you find out the truth about this, what happens to you? You get angry. You get upset. You feel like you've been lied to. And that lie comes from that being lied to now makes you feel betrayal. It makes you feel certain things. And now you can't trust anything in reality because all that what you see, you cannot believe. And that keeps you blocked. And that keeps you from being intuitive. So it's almost like I hear people, and I respect it and I love y'all to life, the woman's intuition. I can't perceive that a woman's intuition is on point if she's not understanding her root chakra, if she's not understanding her heart chakra because she can't deal with loss, if her personal identity is off because she's now connected through pain as opposed to joy, if her sacral chakra is off because her feeling, I'm like, I can't perceive that her intuition is on point. But when your intuition is off, it becomes insecurity, which makes sense. You feel me? If your intuition is not in its positive state, it becomes insecurity. You feel me? And that is something that I touched on in So Frail 2, Toxic Femininity, the exact breakdown of insecurity versus intuition and what they actually represent. You feel me? So that plays its role into what we are, and what our intuitive nature really is. Because how intuitive can we be if we're having blockages where our intuition is supposed to sit? What is it that we're really feeling at that point? You feel me? Like, what is it that we're really connecting to? So that is your third eye and your brow. This is off the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is our quote unquote esoteric side. That is our spiritual side. You feel what I mean? So to unblock your throat chakra, you have to start telling the truth, which means that now you have to investigate all that you have believed, all that you thought you knew, all that you thought you understood, and you have to reevaluate it and see how it becomes true for you, how it makes your truth a reality. Because if you can't do that, you're still going to be caught up in the illusion. You feel me? And the illusion of your third eyes, in order to absorb that, to get rid of the illusion, you have to be able to see through the lies that you've been told, which causes you to research, which causes you to go into these things. This is why I stated that truth is relative to the experiencer, because there is always something that can make any truth a lie. Easily. You feel what I'm saying? Easily. And that's anything on this earth. That's anything that we experience, because your experience is what validates the truth for it. You feel what I mean? Your experience is what validates the truth for it. So this is why it's very treacherous waters just to believe something, because that belief keeps you down on every level prior. You'll never be able to get to an intuitive state because you cannot rely on your own self. You feel what I'm saying? So that's the first 6. So now we go to the crown chakra. This is the chakra that after you unblock everything else, this is the one where peace comes. This is the one where mastering this separates you from all of the other shit. And you're like, oh shit, okay. This is why I've been saying the whole time, you cannot start from the top and go down. You're going to drive your shit insane, because you're not preparing for what you're about to come into. See, the crown chakra is also called Christ consciousness. That's a synonymous thing. And this is where religion and the belief systems all come in. And this is why this is why I talk about the illusion of the religion, because the religion has 3 points to it. You have the mythology, you have the ritual, and then you have the allegory. Learning the mythology is where basically you get the anthropomorphism from. You get the characters, you get the stories, and, you're supposed to get to a point where you transition into the ritual. When it comes to religion, we only do several rituals. Sometimes we'll pray, however many times a day or whatever the case may be, depending on the religion. You'll fast, you'll go on certain spiritual things, like collectively that the ritual is on point, but they never teach you the purpose of the ritual to ascend to the allegory. So you know that this was all a metaphorical thing for what you are on the inside, what your being is on the inside, what your essence truly is, and how to tap back into it. You feel what I'm saying? So when it comes to Christ consciousness, when it comes to the crown chakra, what blocks it is representative of the color purple. It's violet. I will say that it's violet. It's represented. Oh, I skipped something. Hold on. No, I didn't. I said that light was the element for the third eye. Okay, so the element for the crown is thought. Thought is an element. You feel what I'm saying? Thought is an element, and thought moves faster than the speed of light. You dig what I'm saying? And this all goes hand in hand. So your crown chakra is representative of the element of thought. You feel me? Being representative of the element of thought is also blocked by earthly attachments. That which you attach to And this could be everything from family, materialism, all these things. Making an attachment to anything keeps you from being at your Christ consciousness because you're unable to filter yourself through all of the other chakra lenses and those energies. You feel what I'm saying? So it's very, very important that when it comes to this crown chakra energy, you first have to realize that, in order to truly understand how to relieve you, and you cannot separate yourself from an earthly attachment if you're unable to deal with loss. See what I'm saying? This is why it's levels to the shit. You feel me? If you're not able to lose, if you're not able to deal with loss, you can never separate from it. And the reason, and it goes hand in hand. I mentioned that I would get back to this, but it goes hand in hand. The reason why you're unable to deal with loss, because you make an attachment to the very thing that you might lose, as opposed to connecting to it. See, the difference between connection and attachment is almost like a parasitic relationship. You dig what I mean? Connection, on the other hand, is when it's like an energy source. Like you plug your cell phone charger into the wall, you connect it. When the charger is done, when you add 100%, you do what? Unplug it. However, a leech attaches to something. I'm not calling people leeches, but I'm saying this is what an attachment is. You attach to it, and it's painful to get off. It's not painful to disconnect from something. It's not. But see, that's what we have. We have related attachment to connection. And that's what makes all this other shit fall apart. You feel me? Because you can't grieve for what you're attached to, because you can't let it go. You feel me? But that which you're connected to, you know that it served its time and its season is done, and now you can move forward. So that's what it's like to unblock that crown chakra. But that's also why it's called Christ consciousness, because when we consider what the Christ is, the Messiah, and different things of that nature, all of the so-called messiahs of time have the same theme. It seems like they're just above everybody else, and they're not connected, and they're not bothered by certain things and all this. That's because Christ consciousness means that every one of your chakras are in line. And with them being in line, you're able to see the world as it's supposed to be seen and live it as it's supposed to be lived. You feel me? So whether you co-sign, no matter what your religious belief system is, whatever it is, they follow the same thing. So whether you co-sign that this being existed, he didn't exist, he's real, he's fake, he's black, he's white, he's Puerto Rican, he's whatever, the principle of Christ consciousness is what that is supposed to be. That is your crown chakra energy. You dig what I mean? So with that being said, we have the 3 dimensions and we have the 7 chakras. Okay. This is very, very important. Once you master this, like your life changes and you're able to move and be a lot more accountable for life than you really are. So now, just to wrap this up, because that's the 7 chakras. I'm going to tie it all in, right? If you made it this far, you in tune, but you're good. But I'm going to tie it all in to show how all of this makes sense and how religion set this tone, and how religion told you what a chakra was, told you what they are, what's going to happen with each level and each one. But we missed it. We missed it because we never got to the 3rd tier of religion. And that is the mythology. The allegory. So you have the mythology, the ritual, and the allegory. So from there, once we master these, the religion told us from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, no matter which one you follow, it tells you the same story. And if you remember if you paid attention to the elements, you paid attention to the colors, you paid attention to everything that I said about these chakras, when I talk about this, is going to make sense. But before I do, I'm going to give you a quick break so everything can digest, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get into it. All right. And don't forget to take a moment to go get your exclusive merchandise from Just Scenes merch. At Just Scenes, each piece is specifically crafted with positive imagery and symbolism. From the titles and designs to the descriptions, each style gives you something to feel great about. With everything from hoodies and tees to coffee mugs and tote bags, we have something for the entire family. So be sure to get yours today. Find us on Instagram at Just Scenes merch and get your merchandise right now. All right, so now we're going to tie this all full circle, and we're going to bring all of the chakra energy into it. And it's going to make sense why I kept referring back to religion when I was talking about the chakras, when I was talking about that, because although it did seem like I was trying to come off like against it, you have to use it to understand your chakras. You feel what I mean? You have to use it to understand your energies because it's given to you for that very reason. You dig what I mean? So I'm not sure if I think I did mention it when I talked about the heart chakra, that being your spiritual awakening, right? That being your spiritual awakening. I mentioned the third dimension, the fourth dimension, and the fifth dimension. Okay. The third dimension being your foundational, which is your root, sacral, and solar plexus. Your fifth dimensional being your esoteric, meaning your higher consciousness area, your throat, your first eye, and your Christ consciousness, your crown. Right. Here's why this is important. Okay. In the book of Revelations. Now you can use whatever book that you decide to use. However, the theme is what stands the same. And this is why the title is called Chakras, Breaking the Seven Seals, because the book of Revelations begins with a vision. Okay. And in this vision, the theme, I'm not going to go over the full details. I'm just going to cover some of the topic points. In the vision, there is a war that is about to take place, right? This is the revelation. It's called the apocalypse. That's what people have defined it as. I'm just the messenger. I'm just using what people go by. They call this the apocalypse, right? So when you're understanding this text, they say you have to go to the Greek and you got to go to the Hebrew concordance, things like that. Take the word apocalypse and go to the Greek, and it means the uncovering. We have been led to believe. Pay attention to what chakra that hits. We have been led to believe that apocalypse is a mass destruction and it's going to be bombs and Armageddon and all of that shit coming on. No, apocalypse means the unveiling. It means to uncover. It means to reveal that which was hidden. You feel what I'm saying? So in the book of Revelations, to reveal, we have an apocalypse, which is our uncovering, right? So what happens? They said the trumpet is going to blow, and then you're going to have the seven seals are going to be broken. Why is it seven seals? Why is it seven seals? Once these seven seals are broken, what happens? The Leviathan is going to be released. This is very important because the Leviathan, interchangeably, it can be, viewed as a crocodile, or it can be listed as the great serpent. You feel me? It's very important that the serpent showed up twice in our religious books. It showed up twice. You feel me? And it showed up the first time in, do not eat of the tree of knowledge. That basically was saying remain ignorant. I'm not going to get on that. I'm not going to get on that because it did change to the good or evil. You will become like the being or whatever the case may be. But the serpent was very, very pivotal in the beginning and in the end. The reason why that is the case, because the serpent represents the Kundalini energy. The Kundalini energy sits at the base of the spine, which is where? The root chakra. So the Kundalini energy, the root chakra, the first time it came up, it met with masculine and feminine energy. Adam and Eve, man and woman. It met with the masculine and feminine energy, and it was trying to get them to combine. That's what the eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge was. But it's been tainted as to what it really was. But I'm not going to get into that aspect, but I'm just painting this picture for the snake and for the serpent, because in the final aspect, the spiritual awakening of the person, which is the final battle, the seven seals are broken. The great serpent is released from the cage he was in, and the cage is in the bowels, but at the bottom of the earth. The earth is the root chakra. Therefore, if it's beneath the earth, that means it represents quote unquote hell, right? The Kundalini energy sits at the base of the spine, which is where? At the root chakra, below the root chakra at that base. So that serpent, the great serpent, becomes loose and moves up. Now, the Kundalini energy, when you're having a spiritual awakening, if you've ever had one, or if you're in the process of having yours, what happens is you start to feel pain in certain areas of your back, lower back, mid back, upper back. Specifically, the tension is around your neck and your shoulders. That is because your Kundalini energy can't pass through there because you have blockages there. It's supposed to be able to move freely up to the top of your head and move back down and continue to move. But anyway, the case is that when these seven seals are broken, the great war is going to happen. This great war is a spiritual awakening. Now, I'm going to skip and I'm not going to tell all the details because, you can read it. But the end goal is that once the Savior ascends, this is the Christ, this is the Messiah, the Christ consciousness now has to become available, and it ascends down. The sky cracks. As they say, the sky cracks. The sky cracking represents the heart chakra energy. That's why it's representative of the element of air. You dig what I'm saying? It's the air. The sky cracking is that your spiritual awakening begins the moment that your heart chakra opens, and that gives segue. That gives passage from your fifth dimension to your third dimension. You feel what I'm saying? Which is your esoteric side to your earthly side, which is your metaphysical side to your physical side. And that's where the battle now happens, because now the higher consciousness now has to descend down to the lower consciousness, and they have to merge. And they do that by way of the sky being cracked within the heart chakra energy. Okay. So when the battle happens, Christ wins. Your crown consciousness energy wins. It ascends you. It gets you to that point. And what does it end with? There will be a new heaven and a new earth. You will have a new mind and you will have a new body. When you unlock your 7 chakras, when you heal them, and when you get to what your energetic frequency is supposed to be naturally on this earth, and you master everything, you then become like Christ, which then does what? Gives you the meaning of being created in the image of the being. But in order to understand that being created in the image, you have to peel back all of the layers, go through each one of your chakra energies to ascend to that place. So that battle, that apocalypse, that happening in Revelation is the battle that happens within you, your spiritual awakening that occurs. Each one of your chakras are going to be open. The 7 seals are going to be broken. The Kundalini energy, the great serpent, is going to move up. It's going to move up, and it's going to wreak havoc as it's going up, basically. You feel what I'm saying? Then it gets to the top, which is the crown. And now the Christ conscious energy has to tame it. It has to fight the snake and send it back down to the base where it was. And when it sends it back down to the base where it was, it conquers it and locks it back away. Now, with it being locked, is metaphorical and symbolic of the fact that it now is being controlled. You feel me? You're now in control of your Kundalini energy, which is the energy that freely passes through each one of your chakras when they are unblocked. Which does what? Gives you a new heaven and a new earth, a new body, a new mind. This is why after a spiritual awakening, people are not the same. And when you go around your friends and you go around your family, they say, yo, you're crazy now. You've lost your mind. No, you didn't lose your mind and you're not crazy. You lost the mind that was given to you and you reclaimed your own. But because you never had a chance to be yourself in this entire world, now you're able to do that. And it's shocking even to the self, because it's like, wow, how do I maneuver now? Because a lot of us have our spiritual awakenings in our 20s. Some people have it in our 50s, and we call it a midlife crisis. Now you had your spiritual awakening. It took certain things to get to that point. So now if we teach our children how to unlock this energy from the beginning, they'll be okay during the progressive levels of their life. You feel what I'm saying? The fact that we don't have a personal identity is one of the root causes to this. The fact that we're operating from a state of fear is the definite cause of this, because each one of our chakras are blocked. However, when we unblock them, we come out emerged new. So the person that you once knew who has gone through a spiritual awakening and mastered them, they're not the same person. So you can't build a relationship with them on that. And if you're going through your spiritual awakening, if you've had it and you unlocked your chakra energies and you've mastered them, what you now have to understand is that you cannot try to mend relationships as they were. You're different. You're not the same person, because you have what? A new body and a new mind, a new heaven and a new earth. Feel me? So with that being said, I hope it wasn't too deep. I hope it wasn't too layered. I hope it wasn't too difficult to keep up with. I mean, it's a lot of information. It was so much more that I wanted to go into, but I couldn't, because it's like, only got an hour, y'all. Only got an hour, y'all, time. But when it comes to your chakras, please take the time to go through the individual levels and uncover them and master them. Yes, I use extremes. Yes, I use the biggest thing that can block them, simply because it's easier to understand from extremes. You feel me? If I'm giving you the little base, oh, you're afraid of spiders, like, fuck, that's corny. But if you're understanding the bigger aspect of why your chakras are blocked, now you know how to tap into them. This is, and as my disclaimer, this is not me saying follow any kind of religious belief that I'm saying, but As I said, there's 4 tiers to the mind and 4 tiers of thought process: belief, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. If you're only stuck on the belief system, you'll never ascend above any one of your chakras. You have to understand everything that you put into your mind. And then when you get to that certain level, you can ascend to the level of Christ consciousness. And Christ consciousness doesn't necessarily mean that when you get there, you, like I said, you're going to be some androgynous, mystical being who can breathe air and get full and shit. No. You're still going to be able to be who you are, but you're able to comfortably be yourself because now your personal identity is established. Now all these things, your life is going to change when you start unblocking your chakras. You feel me? From my own personal perspective, I started off wanting to be a forensic pathologist. I have a bachelor's degree in forensic biology. I was in med school. I was going down a path. My spiritual awakening happened. Shit changed. Do I still hold the information that I once gained? Yes, I do. Do I still have everything transformed for me though, to where I now am becoming who I am? But I just awakened who the fuck I was really supposed to be, not who I've been conditioned to be. You feel me? There's probably things like you've been taught. There's things that you have been gravitated towards in life because of something that you may have been good at, and people have manipulated that and told you what to do. That's not your personal identity. Now, this is not to say in any way, shape, or form. Here's my disclaimer. Don't throw away your life. Don't throw away your family, your relationship, the kids, the cars, the clothes. Don't do that shit because you heard me talk about, spiritual awakenings and all of that shit. You got to deal with those consequences. Having a spiritual awakening does not mean drop everything and run. You feel me? Stop believing this shit. Stop believing these motherfuckers saying just change your life instantly, you quit. No, you need to go through the steps because it is a fucking process. Trust me, it is a fucking process. But when you get to that process and you go through each one and you spend the time developing the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding to make yourself better and more viable in that space, you'll see what it is to actually unlock a chakra. And I'm going to repeat it one more time. You have a new heaven and a new earth, a new mind and a new body. So with that being said, I thank you all for listening because, at this point I'll be rambling. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at _just_seen_. Follow the podcast at the Just Seen Podcast. Follow my merchandise at Just Seen's Merch. If you're trying to transition into the plant-based lifestyle, follow me at the Hitting It Raw program on Instagram. Be sure to get my books, So Frail, A Reality to Black Male Masculinity, So Frail 2, Toxic Femininity, and Hitting It Raw, Living a Raw Plant-Based Lifestyle for Life. And if you're up for it, support the channel, so we can expand and we can grow. It's always good to get that love and appreciation from you all. I appreciate it all. Let me say that too. I do appreciate every donation, every tip, all of that y'all have been giving me. It's phenomenal, yo. Comes in clutch. I appreciate y'all. But for all of that I just listed, it's in the description of your podcast. So you can just click the links and go. So with that being said, I hope this brings light to chakras and understanding so much about them now, and you're able to start working towards yours. Be patient with yourself as you work towards them and don't overdo it. Because like I said, you need to start from the bottom and go to the top. Don't fucking blame me for some shit if you try to, I think I got it. No, you'll know when your chakra is clear and you'll know when you're at that point and you're ready to go to the next level. Pay attention to that and tap into the levels and move accordingly. You feel me? And you'll be all right. So with that being said, I'll see y'all for the next episode. Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. I'm out.